What kind of person snatches a child's puppy in broad daylight and calls it justice? That's the question I couldn't shake as I stood in my driveway, heart pounding, watching a nightmare unfold in our quiet suburban neighborhood. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon in Maple Grove, a cul-de-sac lined with neat lawns and picket fences, the kind of place where kids ride bikes and neighbors wave. But that day, peace shattered when my son's screams tore through the air, and I learned just how far some people will go to enforce their version of order. I'm Tom Harper, a mechanic who'd moved my family to Maple Grove 6 months earlier, chasing the dream of a safe, friendly community. My 10-year-old son, Ethan, was the heart of our home, a kid with a smile that could melt ice and a love for animals that ran deep. For his birthday, we'd surprised him with Scout, a golden retriever puppy with floppy ears and a tail that never stopped wagging. Ethan had begged for a dog for years, promising to walk him, feed him, clean up after him. And he kept his word, doting on Scout like a proud parent. But Scout, like any puppy, was still learning. He'd bark at squirrels, yip at passing cars, and sometimes forget he wasn't the king of the neighborhood. That's when the trouble started, and it all pointed to one person, Linda Grayson, the iron-fisted president of our Homeowners Association. Linda wasn't just strict, she was obsessed. The HOA bylaws were her gospel, and she wielded them like a scepter. From the moment we moved in, she'd been a thorn in our side, VYing notes about our mailbox being non-compliant, or our grass being a quarter-inch too long. But when Scout arrived, her crusade took a darker turn. It began with a typed letter on official HOA letterhead, taped to our door. An unlicensed barking violation has been reported on your property. Remedy immediately. It was signed, Linda Grayson, HOA President, with a phone number for compliance inquiries. I called her, trying to keep things civil. Linda, Scout's just a puppy, I said. Ethan's working hard to train him. Her voice was cold, clipped. The bylaws prohibit excessive noise, Mr. Harper. 3 violations lead to fines or further action. I hung up, thinking she'd ease off. I was wrong. Days later, a second note appeared, this one scrawled in angry red ink. Second violation. Your dog's barking ruined my morning coffee. Next time, I'll act. Scout had only barked for a minute when the mail truck rolled by. Then came the third note. Final warning. Your dog is a menace to this neighborhood's peace. I started noticing Linda lurking near our fence, phone in hand, recording Scout's every sound. Once, I caught her holding a decibel meter, her face twisted in grim determination. We tried everything, bringing Scout inside more, using a citronella no-bark collar, doubling down on training. Nothing satisfied Linda. To her, Scout wasn't a puppy, he was her personal enemy. That Saturday, the storm broke. Ethan was playing with Scout in our fenced backyard, laughing as the puppy chased a ball. He stepped inside for a quick drink, forgetting to latch the gate. Scout, curious and fearless, nudged it open and wandered out. By the time Ethan noticed, it was too late. He ran outside just as Linda stormed across her pristine lawn, scooped up Scout, and clutched him under her arm. Scout wasn't barking or digging, was just sniffing her flowers, tail wagging. Mrs. Grayson, that's my dog! Ethan shouted, sprinting toward her. Linda spun around, her eyes blazing with triumph. This animal is being confiscated for HOA violations, she announced loud enough for the whole street to hear. I've documented 20 barking incidents. Animal control will deal with this nuisance. Ethan's screams brought me running from the garage, my wrench clattering to the ground. I rounded the house to find my son on the porch, tears streaming down his face, pointing at Linda as she marched down the sidewalk with Scout squirming in her grip. Dad, she took Scout! He sobbed. Fury surged through me, but I kept my voice steady. Linda! I called, jogging after her. Give my son's dog back. Now. She whirled around, her face red with indignation. This dog is a public nuisance, she snapped. As HOA president, I'm confiscating it until the authorities arrive. Scout whimpered, struggling in her tight hold. You have no right to take anyone's pet, I said, my anger rising. That's theft, Linda. Plain and simple. It's not theft, it's enforcement, she shrieked, her voice so shrill it drew neighbors to their windows. The bylaws allow me to protect community standards. By now, a crowd was forming, phones out, recording the chaos. Those bylaws don't let you steal a kid's dog, I shot back. Hand him over, and we can talk like adults. Linda clutched Scout tighter, making him yelp. This dog has ruined my peace for weeks. I can't work, I can't garden, I can't even enjoy my coffee. Her voice cracked, teetering on hysteria. He's going to the pound, and you'll get a fine. What Linda didn't know was that our neighbor, Mike Sullivan, had a doorbell camera that caught everything from Scout wandering innocently into her yard to her grabbing him and refusing Ethan's pleas. Mike stepped out, phone in hand, recording the standoff. Linda, give the dog back, he called. This is illegal, and I've got it all on video. Linda's eyes flicked to Mike, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. The video will prove I'm right. This dog's been a problem, and no one's done anything. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Someone in the crowd had called 911. 2 police cruisers pulled up, and the officers stepped out, eyeing the bizarre scene, a furious woman clutching a puppy, a crying boy, and a neighborhood-turned audience. What's going on here? The first officer asked. Linda launched into her story, words tumbling out. I'm the HOA president, and this dog's been violating noise bylaws for weeks. I'm enforcing community standards. The officer raised an eyebrow. Did you take this dog from someone else's property? No, Linda said, defiant. It was trespassing on my lawn. I was containing it for animal control. That's not true, Mike interjected. My camera shows the puppy wandered over, and she grabbed him instead of returning him. The officer nodded to his partner. Check the footage. The second officer followed Mike to review the video while the first turned to me. Is this your dog? It's my son's, I said, gesturing to Ethan, who was still crying, eyes locked on Scout. He left the gate open by mistake, but that doesn't give her the right to take him. The officer's gaze softened as he looked at Ethan, then hardened as he faced Linda. Ma'am, hand over the dog. Now. But the bylaws, Linda started. HOA bylaws don't override state law. The officer cut in. You can't confiscate someone's pet. If you've got a complaint, file it with the city. Linda sputtered, clutching Scout like a shield. I have rights. My peace is violated daily by this animal. The second officer returned, whispering to his partner, who nodded. Ma'am, I'm asking one last time. Return the dog. Linda looked around, seeking allies, but even her HOA cronies shook their heads. Fine, she hissed, shovying Scout at me. I caught him gently and handed him to Ethan, who buried his face in Scout's fur, tears turning to relief. But the officers weren't done. Based on the video and witness statements, you're under arrest for theft and trespassing, the first officer said, pulling out handcuffs. Arrest? Linda's voice hit a new pitch. For enforcing rules? For stealing property, the officer corrected. Turn around. The neighborhood watched, stunned, as Linda Grayson, the tyrant of Maple Grove, was cuffed and led to the cruiser. She ranted the whole way, claiming we'd all regret this, that property values would tank without her. As the car drove off, the crowd erupted in cheers. Neighbors patted Ethan's back, ruffled Scout's fur, and swapped stories of Linda's reign of terror. The fallout was swift. The HOA held an emergency meeting that night, voting unanimously to oust Linda as president and ban her from the board for 5 years. She faced charges of petty larceny and criminal trespass, landing her a $2,000 fine, 100 hours of community service, and a 500-foot restraining order from our home and Scout. In court, she unraveled, shrieking about community standards, until the judge slapped her with a $500 contempt fine, leaving her speechless, her designer purse hitting the floor. When the local news aired Mike's footage, Linda's real estate business tanked to buy a house from a puppy thief? Maple Grove hasn't been the same since. Ethan and Scout are inseparable, and the HOA's new leadership is refreshingly reasonable. But I'll never forget that day, or the lesson it taught me. Sometimes, the loudest voices in a community aren't the wisest theory, just the ones who think they're above the rules. And when they cross a line, like stealing a boy's best friend, they learn the hard way that justice doesn't care about their clipboard or their title.